We're trying to start now. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really encouraging when you see smiles come to West Baltimore for the purpose of revitalization, and we are ready for you. My name is Teresa Stevens, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer with the West North Avenue Development Authority, which is a new state agency focused on economic development along the West North Avenue corridor and supporting 16 neighborhoods that also support the corridor. Last year, the West North Avenue Development Authority awarded $9.5 million to projects that were ready to get started and committed to bringing revitalization, new blood, new effort, new freshness to West North Avenue. And we are encouraged to offer that round again for 2024, fiscal year 2025. Over the years, our community work, our work with the developers, and under the direction of our executive director, Chad Williams, we have been able to encourage and spark an energy that hopefully you all have and are ready to submit some strong qualifications for projects along the corridor. An RFQ provides an opportunity for developers, business owners, and nonprofits to express their interest in qualifications, and it reduces the burden of having to get architectural drawings, but we are also looking for qualified state registered businesses. So we really want you to be ready and have a project in mind for this project or for this opportunity that's about to be offered. Before we get started, I do want to introduce our team who is here. Our Economic Development Officer, Salisa Jefferson. Our Executive Assistant, Niela Cromwell. Christy Turner, our policy, and I know I'm so on a first name basis, our policy analyst. Armstead Jones, our Housing Development Officer. Randy, our Green and Healthy Space Development Officer. Kiana Pennick, our Chief of Staff. All right, so we are ready to get this party started, and I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Mr. Chad Williams.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? Cool. So our procurement officer, Tiara Sykes, unfortunately couldn't be with us today. So I'm actually going to do a portion of her presentation. So this is our agenda for today. Obviously, to welcome you. We're going to go through the timeline process. We'll actually have a demonstration of our submittable grant application system platform so you understand how to submit the grant application. Second or next will be an understanding of the West North Avenue Development Authority and our focus areas. And obviously we'll take some questions after we're done. And then Niela has an announcement. But before we begin, I definitely want to thank you for coming out. Yes, we are a relatively new state agency focused on the revitalization of West North Avenue along the West North Avenue corridor. Governor Westmore invested $11.4 million into our agency last fiscal year. And this next coming fiscal year, which starts only in several days, we now have a $17.1 million budget of about $15 million currently has been set aside for grants, and we will probably give out somewhere around 12 to maybe 13 million of that and grants. So next slide. Let's see what we got. So an overview of the process is really simple. You just need to be a registered business in the state of Maryland. Obviously, nonprofit, for-profit, a variety of businesses that we'll get into. We definitely encourage minority participation. We do give bonus points for small businesses, minority businesses, disadvantaged businesses. So we definitely encourage that. And then how you will be evaluated is important. It's based on your business profile, who you are, what you do. We want to get to know you. And then your technical submission, how you theoretically are saying what are your capabilities and how you're demonstrating those capabilities. And then one thing I can talk about it now is you should go to our website and review our comprehensive plan, download that electronically, because one of the most important things in completing the application that we'll be looking for is how you're aligning the services that you want to provide for WNADA to the community with the goals and objectives and the strategies of those comprehensive plans. That's a hint. Like when you're in school and they be like, that's a hint on your test. That's a hint for the test. All right. And then goals. So the goal is obviously we want to get a pool of qualified individuals and businesses to participate. Even if you are not selected to receive a grant fund to perform an activity, your services may be procured on behalf of WNADA for activities that we individually want to achieve. So keeping that in mind is this is a dual kind of RFQ for request for qualifications / grant application process. So it's not about once we start talking about what we want to see as far as development, you as a business owner may say, hey, I think I can provide X to WNADA to help them enhance maybe their outreach, their meetings, their convents, janitorial services. All of those things are on the table. And I encourage you to share this opportunity with people. You are only limited by your imagination on what you can provide to us. We're not asking people primarily to tell us what we want. So you're only limited by your own creativity. All right. Next. So here's our timeline. Obviously, today we're doing the pre-submission conference. The application will go live tomorrow. I actually don't know a time, so I'm just going to say 8 a.m. But that may be like 12 noon. You know how things could be. But it'll go live tomorrow. And then the submission deadline is July 25th. Oh, that's what y'all was telling me. I didn't change that. All right, that's wrong. So the submission deadline is July 25th. We will change that when we make that available for you. So the submission deadline is July 25th. And then if you want to make sure you email questions, you get that to procurement at WNADA, WNADA.org. You get those questions over to Tierra at that address. That's the official address for us receiving questions, not her WNADA personal email address, but that email address, which is procurement at WNADA. All responses right there due July 25th. And then we plan to tentatively make grant announcements and awards by October 1st. Technically, we plan to present our recommended grant awards to the board on Tuesday, September 24th, I believe, whatever that last Tuesday is in September. And then a big question, because I know y'all will be asking, so I'll answer it now. Once the awards are happening, when will you get your money? I would say approximately before Thanksgiving, because our staff deserves a break. We've been doing this since October on this, and then the second round. So we definitely want to be done with this by Thanksgiving, and we want to be unbothered in August. I'm just going to be really honest about that. All right, next. So before we go into more technical aspects of what we're looking for, I'm going to bring Submittable on the line. I believe Shelby is here, and Niela is asking for the mic.
I just want to let you know you all are being recorded from this point on, okay? Thank you. And Shelby, if you're with us, if you can introduce yourself, and we are ready to start.
Absolutely. My name is Shelly. I'm with Submittable. I'm an implementation specialist, and I'm here to kind of walk you guys through what that submittable sort of process looks like. So the first thing I wanted to tell you guys is that Submittable is a platform that the West North Avenue Development Authority is going to be using to kind of collect all of the information that you're going to need to submit to apply for the grant. The team has worked really, really hard to design an application process that's going to be easy for you and not daunting, but very thorough for them to ensure that they get all of the information they need, but also that your team is
Shelly, can you
aware
hear
of the.
us? We
Yeah,
can't
can
hear
you hear
you.
me?
We can hear you now.
Oh, okay, you can hear me now.
Yes.
What was the last thing that you heard?
Nothing. Can you start over?
Oh, I sure can. Okay, so my name is Shelly. I am a submittable implementation specialist. I'm going to kind of talk real quick through what you can expect when you go to fill out the submittable application for this grant with the organization. So I'm just going to answer a couple of quick questions or give you guys some basic information. So submittable is a platform that you're going to be using to answer questions for the grant, as well as uploading documents that you might need to have in order for your grant to be accepted. The team has worked really hard to design an application process that's easy for you guys to go through and doesn't feel very daunting, but is very, very thorough for them to get all of the information that they need to ensure that they're evaluating you correctly. When you go into the submittable portal, you'll notice that it starts with the ability for you to read guidelines about this specific opportunity. And this is where you can kind of come and just double check some things. You can check the general provisions. You can look over the specific definitions that are you'll see throughout the grant. And this is also where they provide that email address, again, if you need to reach out and talk to somebody before you start the application process. So you can look over those guidelines before you get started. And when you're ready, you'll click submit, and this will start the application process. If you don't have a submittable account, and my guess is probably most of the people that are watching this in the audience, they probably don't have one yet. You may see another button that's like create an account. And what this does is it kind of assigns a password to an email address that you get that creates your submittable account for you. And this is important because it stores your information. So that way, if you start the application process and then maybe you have to go somewhere and you need to finish it later on or tomorrow or something like that, you can come back and pick up where you left off, and you can continue filling out the information so that you can make sure that you get the grant opportunity completed and you don't have to do it all in one sitting. If you're familiar with anything like Google Forms or a lot of general websites, you'll find that the question process is very similar. You'll see sort of these single response questions where you can just click, and you'll also notice that depending on answers that you select, some other questions may pop up to help gather all of the information that we need to be able to assess this application correctly. Once you have filled out your application and you've clicked submit at the end, I'm going to copy paste another link in here because I want to show you guys what the submittable portal looks like. Okay. Let me make sure it's changed. It has. Perfect. Okay. So once you guys have clicked submit and you've submitted your application, you're going to see that application that you guys have done. You'll notice I have a ton of them in here because I'm practicing with a lot of other organizations as well. But you'll be able to come in specifically and see the application that you've done. So this is one we tested with earlier. And a couple of call outs, you'll notice your status. So the WNADA team can actually update your application to let you know where you are in the process. You'll notice it stays in progress most of the time, but this can change. And if you click on the name that you've submitted in, you can also see all the activity that's happened back and forth between you and the staff. You can interact with them by sending them messages to that team directly, and they can respond back to you in case you've got questions. You can also see specifically the answers that you gave. So you could come back and go, oh, here's the answers that I did when I submitted the grant. So you could come back and see those specifically. So this submissions portal that you will have access to when you've created your account will automatically store your application there, and then you can come back and use it and reference it and interact with the team later on if you receive the grant. And I think that is all of the big details that you'll need to know. And I'm going to pass it back to the team.
Probably under doing business with the authority. Yes, Geneva. Charlotte. So the question
Yes.
is, do they get, yes, she said yes. Yes, sir. Questions. So I'm not sure, but she did say the staff can change not an answer, but if it's a technical correction, it needs to be happened. Is that correct?
It is. Actually, it's a new feature that we just released relatively recently, that if there is a big issue on our side and it's easier for your team to make an adjustment, you can actually alter their answers if you needed to.
Yeah, we paid for the full premium package. Yeah. Next question. All right, cool. I think that's it. We'd like to thank the submittable team, and we look forward to working with you through this application process. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Cool. So I do want to give Kiana, Tierra's not here, and Shantae a round of applause. So they worked with Submittable to get this thing up and running in less than 30 days. So I just want to give them a round of applause for that. So a couple of application tips that Tierra has up here is make sure, this is probably common sense, but make sure you give complete answers as possible. Be detailed. Do not submit any blank or partial answers. Obviously, if you got questions, call, send an email to procurement, or we can reach out to Submittable, and then make sure that you upload, attach any license certifications that could be noticeable. All right, cool. Next slide, who we are. I think that's you. Yeah, so next we're gonna have our policy and research analyst, Christy Turner, give you all a brief walkthrough of who we are as the West North Avenue Development Authority. And I see Senator Hayes snuck in.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christy Turner. I'm the Policy and Research Analyst. And right now, we're just going to go through a brief overview of who we are and pretty much give you an explanation as to why we were created and what our objective is. So during the 2021 legislative session, we were created with the goal of supporting the development and approval of a comprehensive approach to the West North Avenue Development Corridor. And so while our main goal was to essentially, one, come up with this comprehensive plan that merged into 4 additional responsibilities. So while we are coming together with stakeholders to create that one plan focused on economic development, housing, transportation, and green space, we also serve as a clearinghouse and a resource center. And we also ensure that money is being spent effectively and efficiently based on our plan, but also for the conditions and the residents of West North Avenue. And then again, we provide advisory services. As you know, there have been a lot of projects and plans for this area, and there are other agencies also looking to do work here as well. So we are looking to support them, but also advise them as well. And this here is our initial target area and buffer zone. So the target area is from the 600 to 3200 block of West North Avenue. And because the corridor is contiguous of 16 neighborhoods, we have a 250-yard buffer zone around that initial target area. This is our board. As you see, it's comprised of anyone and everyone who does economic and community development. And we also have two community representatives. So John J. Jennings from the Druid Heights Community Development Corporation and Minister Glenn Smith from Coppin Heights CDC. These are the 16 neighborhoods throughout our corridor. And as you can see, they're all contiguous, and West North Avenue serves as that main artery. Okay, focus areas and problems. So as I previously stated, there have been a lot of plans for this corridor for a very long time. And so what we did, instead of starting from scratch, we took those pre-existing plans, we created logic models and neighborhood matrices that focused on our core areas. And from that, we derived these problems. So housing, you see, depopulation, vacancy, homeownership, and several others. And we did the same for economic development, transportation, and green space as well. And next, I'll hand it over to Armstead Jones.
Good afternoon. How's everyone? Good afternoon. How is everyone? There you go. There's $12 million on the street and we don't seem enthusiastic. Right? All right. So housing. We want to come up with solutions that solve problems, right? So when you're looking at housing solutions, we've already gone over certain problems, but depopulation, vacancy, blight, like how do we combat those problems? And then how do we change them and work with you guys, right, to come up with solutions? So we've come up with solutions, what's this? Impacts, and then, why did it cut off like that? Ooh. What is it? Activities. There's two words up there, but. All right. So we're thinking options that don't just always include housing affordability. There are places where you can do along the corridor some market rate affordable housing. You can do ground up housing, come up with some sort of solutions that solve these problems. This is in your comprehensive plan. So go through the comprehensive plan, find this chart, solve a problem from this chart, right? Seems that simple, but at the same time, you need to identify locations and all that good stuff so that you have a better understanding of what problem you're solving. But you can use this chart as a way of figuring out what it is you would like to propose to WNADA to receive grant funding. So you go through this chart, and if you can identify ways of solving issues that are up here on this chart, I believe you are going down the right path. Questions? Ground up is new construction, yes. Yeah. And we were just talking about this, but it is to promote economic development along the corridor. So anything helps. If you see an asset that is already there, a park, anything of that nature, and you propose something around that, that kind of meets with our goals of providing housing around those options as well. And you know, you go through objectives, you know, diverse housing options, you know, price points. You start thinking about what things cost, what, you know, what they're selling for. Strike a balance. So of course, we're looking for innovative ideas that aren't necessarily a cookie cutter, but cookie cutter does work, especially when it's done properly and done by, you know, good operators. So. And there are certain advantages with the zoning on certain portions. So I would make sure you always, check out your zoning, find out whether your uses are permittable, and if not, what that might take in the time frame in order to get those changes made, or maybe you should select another option at that point. So that is the housing. Any questions? Take questions at the end.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felisa Jefferson. I'm the Economic Development Officer. So great to see so many faces here that I'm working with. And hello to all the newcomers. Go back one. All right. So, some of the problem areas that we have found in economic development is the lack of investment in the corridor, lack of stable economy, the food desert, and a lack of mixed-use development. And by doing so, we have identified some of the goals and objectives to help increase those lack ofs. So the goal here is for WNADA to create an economic competitiveness and growth through equitable businesses such as your business. Can I get a show of hands of how many food and beverage businesses we have here? Okay, good. How about retail, clothing, apparel? All right, awesome. And what about like manufacturing, making things, maker spaces? Awesome, awesome. So we encourage each and every one of you all to apply because that's the diversity of businesses that we're looking for. And objectives, we have to improve advocacy and marketing and to increase the investment, stabilize local economy, of course, establish a business improvement districts, and so forth. I will also encourage everyone to look over the comprehensive plan, and if you have not received or attended any of our rollouts, please do so. Our next rollout is July the 13th, so please come. I have flyers up front if you need one. And again, I will also suggest to do your due diligence in finding locations, so property search. You can use whatever tool that you're comfortable with using. Next, transportation.
Thank you. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Eric Lang. I'm the transportation guy here at WNADA. And I just want to take a second to talk about our transportation philosophy. Recognize that, today might be, for most of you, you're here for the development side, for your traditional developers. But I really want to kind of impress upon you the importance of the public realm in our communities for your private developments, but also for the neighborhoods and for the corridor as a whole. So when you look at our comprehensive plan, you're going to see that some of the main problems are that it's automobile dependent. That's clear. And it's not really a true problem today, but what happens when we get to zero vacancy? The corridor is not going to function as efficiently as it could. So what we want to try to instill is walkability, transit access, bikeability, things that really don't exist right now or are not at the level that they should and could be. So when you're thinking about that in your plans, you might be, focused more on a private space, and that's totally fine. And we need a lot of that. But there's also opportunities in the public space to support your private development, support the neighborhood, but again, the commercial corridor. So if there's areas, maybe you're a CDC, you're a neighborhood association, or you just want to improve like the total value of your area, think about the public realm. Things like improving the bus stops near your development, placemaking in and around that area if it's a commercial district. That's how we make and achieve the vibrancy that we're really looking for and what the community ultimately said that they want. That's in the comprehensive plan. So you can go to the next slide. And when you look at our comprehensive plan, like that's the main goal, is establishing the balanced multimodalism that is really a buzzword, but it's also really true and something that we're trying to bring here to West Baltimore. And really, we need you to think about just beyond your boundaries to help us achieve that. But there's a lot of details between our objectives, but also the strategies if you're not quite sure what that looks like. But again, things in the public space. So improving and slowing the streets through complete street strategies or placemaking strategies called tactical urbanism, some things that we've already started to fund, and we're looking to do that more, to beautifying the space so people want to walk a little bit more and get out of their cars. That's all part of that mix, or anything else that could kind of fall into that. So try to be creative and see, like, start with the problem statements that we've identified, and that can ultimately help you kind of get to that end solution. But I look forward to questions later, and then as well as your submissions. Thank you. Oh, and next we have Randy with Green Space.
Hello, everyone. Just by show of hands, how many green space companies do we have here today? Two? Okay. Well, on West North Avenue, we're actually looking to improve a lot of the land and building as far as construction techniques. A lot of the soil you're using, whether it's composting the actual trash or working with a number of schools. If you are interested in green space in general, you can go to the next slide. I would highly suggest working with your neighboring organizations, like Greater Mondawmin if you're there, like White Lock if you're sitting outside of the buffer zone, the Reservoir Hill Association. If you do have letters of support, those are also very helpful for you to exist, do construction, or do some level of improvement in these neighborhoods. As you can see, we want to bring spaces that allow for children and adults to play, just open green spaces to improve your air quality on a regular basis, dogs to do activities out in the parks. And they don't have to be traditional parks. You have your Eaglewood Park, you have your Herbert Street Park, but these could be green spaces sitting out right next to your door, right in front of a store, or even right next to the schools in your area. Of course, we're right here in Coppin State, but we have an elementary school closer down to the Madison Park North area. I would also ask you all to consider that ideas of like pollinator spreads, or some of you may actually have solar panel introductions or connections that could offer different resilient entities to our neighborhood. For example, we only have 2 chargers that are located near the zoo up the road. Where are the other chargers? Maybe they're at the North Avenue Market, but those would probably be the only other 3 within a 20 to 30 mile radius. So introducing those type of green energy components, pollinators, gardens to improve the businesses, as well as your flexibility of just being human and going out to eat, will be something that we're looking forward to reviewing in applications. Hand it off to Christy.
I'm back. So as you know, if you're familiar with our previous grant application process, we identified focus areas. And so right now, I'm just going to give you a little bit more about our approach that we'll be taking as we've identified focus areas for FY26 to FY37. And in this, we've taken a phased approach. So all of these will appear over 3-year time spans. So next slide, please. So for this, go back. Okay, so these are pretty much the same focus areas that we had for our last round of applications. As you can see, we've divvied it up in between this larger blue area. That is an extension of what we previously called the image center. And as you can see, there are different color codes that represent different things. So the teal colors represent residential, acquisition, homeownership, housing preservation. Green for green space. The orange spaces are commercial, and then the yellow are mixed use. And so as you can see in that larger blue area, there are different opportunities for residential, green space, and commercial properties. Okay, and then for FY30 to FY33, as you can see, those focus areas have now changed. And there's also a new color on the screen, purple, that is going to represent trans-oriented development. And so as we previously said, be creative, be innovative with your ideas, because different opportunities or different development types will open up as we continue our grant processes. FY34 through FY37. As you can see, these are different areas. A new color again, black. That is an industrial and residential area located behind Coppin State University. So that will be another type of development that you will see in the future. And we've taken this approach because although our corridor is 2.7 miles long and there are 16 neighborhoods there, we really want these focus areas to serve as catalyst for other development. So while you all, whoever is awarded, you may have your projects, but what can that project spark? How can we get more investment in making this a group effort? And we really look for the community and the work that you all are looking to do on West North Avenue.
Thanks again. All right, so I'm gonna go through the big thing for our presentation is our focus areas. So as Christy laid out, our focus areas for FY27 through 30 was it. And as we say, we have a layered approach. So as last year, these are pretty much the same focus areas from going up to the top left-hand corner, 2700 block to West North Avenue, then the Walbrook Mill site, the Live at Coppin, the intersection of where the image center is, and we have larger images, which I'll go through, West North Avenue, McCullough, and then the 600 block of West North Avenue. So here is a satellite image of the 27 to 2900 block of West North Avenue. This is approximately 2.5 blocks of mostly vacant, single family, R3 row houses. Probably a good small minority are currently owned or have been targeted by Coppin Heights CDC. Some are owned by the mayor and city council, and obviously some are private ownership. And so what we're looking for is single family developers to acquire these properties using our grant funding for either private acquisition, working with the city for condemnation and eminent domain, or MREM foreclosure, if you're familiar with how those operate. And if not, I can answer those questions later back though. But also one of the things that you see there is having a target approach for student housing, for Coppin State University, and then having the ability to have lower level retail with residential at top for increasing density. Next slide. And at the Walbrook Mill site, so we awarded last year, this past fiscal year, to Barco and OpenWorks, who will be setting up a makerspace facility that you may be familiar with in East Baltimore. So we awarded them $2 million to acquire the land unit parcel in the back to set that up and start that process. In current land assessment of that property, there's enough space for an additional light manufacturing facility. So if someone has, wants to manufacture something, team up with another group, that may be an opportunity there for you. And then if you're familiar with this footprint here, the building to the right lower half, we call it the B&O Office Railroad building, or it's probably office building for the old lumber yard. That's where our offices will be for WNADA. And so we'll be looking for janitorial services, armed security services, which will also have to be subject to the approval of the Maryland State Department of General Services, and then also green space design. As you know, that area there is mostly concrete. There's some grass in the back, but residents, particularly in the Walbrook Mill apartments, don't want to see everything concreted out there. They want to see some creativity of including green space. So people can go out, listen to music, and enjoy each other. Next slide. So this next one is what we call Live at Coppin. Similar area, 3 block by 3 block radius. And if you look here, so this is intersection, you see West North Avenue and Warwick down to Baker and then back up to West North Avenue. But here's a couple of things to keep in point. Obviously, it's close to Coppin, looking for student housing, similar single family developers. We awarded, I believe, about 3 developers and a total of $1 million to acquire and develop properties in that site, and similar to 2700 block. So we're doubling down on that to continue to focus on that area. But if you look on the left side of this of the image, you'll see some open green space. So that's actually owned by the city. And so people have kind of like taken it over, but it's something we would like to see some more improved green space, a planning design, maybe urban farms. And so that's something that could be creative and engaging for developers. Next slide. So this next slide, you won't see it, but this is Madame in Easterwood, and this is around the Image Center. And so this is a similar aspect that we're looking for, particularly on the green space where Herbert Street Park, which is right behind the Image Center. But you also have a couple of opportunities for multifamily buildings that are close by the Image Center, but then also residential development. And I would also say residential stabilization. One of the things that we just recently met with residents is providing services that helps residents stay in their homes, particularly legacy residents. And so it's not even just acquisition and development, it could be providing rehab. So think about that. Like, you might not want to just be a pure developer from ground up in development, but particularly in the 27 that live at Coppin and in this area, we want residents where new construction is going on to feel that they haven't been lost with the development and that there's no displacement. And so businesses or entities that get help make sure that they're not displaced is also what we could be looking for. So this intersection here, West North Avenue, McCullen. So this past grant round, we awarded $500,000 to the city as a grant to go through a condemnation and eminent domain process to acquire the famous car wash that everybody knows sits there. That is not available for a developer to be interested in development. That has been set aside to a developer who went through our application process last year, and the authority will convey that property already to that developer. And then I believe that's the 2900 of Druid Hill Avenue, but these houses on you can't see it all, but at the bottom left, those row houses right across the street from Cab Callaway Park, that's off the table also. We awarded $650,000 to Druid Heights CDC so that they could start development on that site. However, on the side where the flower shop is, we definitely would like to see an aggressive acquisition and development steps by developers with our grant funding to turn that into a restaurant district. And I know that could be tough, but I think if you're creative and get groups of Black-owned restaurant entrepreneurs to say we'll move in this area collectively, I think that could be helpful. And so that's a note for you. Another note. I gave you 2 notes now for class. And then next is the 600 block of West North Avenue. So last year, we had put this as a focus area for grant funding of $1 million. We pulled back that grant solicitation process. What we did was award $500,000 to the city to go through the condemnation and eminent domain process, and to be transparent, because the owners wanted 3 times as much money as the property is worth. And however, what we are going to do this year, because we will be going through that condemnation process, we will open back the solicitation for qualified developers who are interested in developing that property in partnership with the Reservoir Hill Community Association and the city on selecting that developer. So in pulling that back, we transitioned that not to be a singular WNADA decision-making opportunity. Next slide. And that's where we are. Last thing I want to mention, I know I listed a lot of things that were mostly like hard construction or development, but as I said, what we did last year, we received a reasonable number of professional services, like people who wanted to create software for us, which we thought was very creative. People who had submitted, we had a group of sisters that own a title company, which we're holding back because our bill didn't pass where we could acquire, own, and lease land. But because they ranked high, Once that bill passes, we will approach them and they will be selected to be our title company for development. And then we had also, if some of you may remember, we had talked about assigning realtors to a particular property so that we're dividing the pie. You know, with developers, they like to choose their own people, from title companies to realtors. And because our bill didn't pass also, I felt we didn't have real full authority to do that. But I want to encourage realtors to apply for that and show us your capabilities and skills and make sure that we can set that aside. Now, what I will say is that those realtors that had already applied will probably be first in the queue last year to be considered, but anything can happen. And with that, I'll take questions, or we will take questions. Hey, Lady Breon, what's up? Yes, so you probably caught me on the back foot. Last year's application, yes, you could select the focus areas. I've been too busy to actually review. I'm an artist person, so I've had full trust in my team, particularly Tara, Kiana, and Shantae, that we kept the focus areas, and I don't believe they would have strayed from that without letting me know. So I can probably be 90% sure that we still had the focus areas. All right, so this is how I answered it last year. There is more of a high probability of getting funded if you request funding in an activity that aligns with our comprehensive plan within the current focus areas that we're focused on for this fiscal year. All right. It drops to a lower priority if you apply for something outside of those focus areas, and then a lower priority if it's outside of our targeted and buffer zone, right? One of the things that will have to be highly considered is a very economic, high profile activity or project that we could tie as a catalyst tying to future economic development for West Baltimore. All right, cool. We'll go. Where you? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Individuals, businesses, individuals can apply for grants. We last year we said registered Maryland businesses, but I understand your nature of your question, and that's been raised by residents before. So what I would say is complete the application and let the executive director decide. Okay. All right. Yes. Yeah.
So if our organization has been doing the work.
Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry. He just left. Yeah, he left. All right. That was Danielle calling from Antonio saying he left. She's trying to keep him on schedule. She's blowing up my phone. Sorry about that. He should answer his own phone.
we are 2 blocks away from these things and in the catch area, and I wasn't sure, do we still qualify? Does this application allow organizations and businesses that are already established to receive funding to build up the work that's already being done? But in my interpretation of it, it seemed more like getting new projects to support works that are already happening in specific areas by other organizations. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think it was 3 parts. So let me see if I broke it down, if I missed, to give you opportunity. So I will give you the same answer I gave Lady Breon about the probability of getting funded based on where your project is located. The second one is, it is not, you would only be able to receive operating funds if you are awarded a grant for the project. I believe, if I can recall, I believe we have set aside 15% of our grant awards to entities that they could use for like developer fees or operations, right? And then the third part of your question of existing businesses that could provide services, I think to help your application, and I know you submitted an application last year, I think to help your application would be to focus, find a way to be creative in those focus areas. Like we talked about the Live at Coppin area, where there's some green space area that the city owns that could be repurposed. You have Herbert Street Park and areas like that. No, so it'd be the same answer I gave Lady Breon. It's a higher probability if you submit a grant application and your project is within those focus areas. Yeah, exactly. Let's go back to the map.
The buffer zone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, no, you went too far. No, we want to go to the zone areas. I think that's that one, right? No, back. No, go right there. Right? No, not that one. The next one. No, that one right there. Stop. So these are the focus areas. We will leave this on the map as we have our discussion. These are the focus areas for the next fiscal year for our agency. So the focus areas are that will receive a high priority are projects within those color areas. Yes. There will be a lower priority of funding if they're outside of those focus areas, but within our target area and buffer zone. And then anything outside of that buffer zone has a much lower chance of getting funded and really would have to demonstrate a serious economic catalyst for West Baltimore in general, tied to the West North Avenue corridor, which could happen. It's just how you write it. All right, cool beans. The FY25 map. That one? Yeah. Yeah, but this is the 26 year. FY26 starts July 1st. All right, next question. Brother with the hat with the heart on his shirt. So the purple is trans-area development. That wouldn't happen, I believe. Go to the next slide. Next slide, right there. So trans-area development doesn't start to appear as a focus area for us until FY30, which would be July, July 1st, 2029. And the reason why we wanted to present these layered kind of focus maps over the time period is because we were getting these questions of, people wanted to do projects outside the focus area. And we want to make sure that we're highly concentrating our resources in areas and then having that be a catalyst for West North Avenue. What we don't want to be is traditional DHCD for the city and state and just be spreading out money and it just had no impact at all. And I know that takes patience with the neighbors, but it's the most effective strategy. I think it was somebody before you, Lady Breon. Oh, go ahead, bro. So the TOD, I believe they're zoned for that by the city. Yes, they are. Yes. But we're not focused on that until FY30. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So your points won't go down. Your points, we grade the scores based on qualifications, right? And the where you apply doesn't affect your score, right? Then we look at the high scores and then where they ask for their project to be, right? And so you're going to have a higher priority if you get a higher score and it's in a focus area, right? You can have 120 score and it could be all the way down in Popperton. You're probably not getting funded, right? That's what I'm trying to explain. Mhm. Yeah, it's on the last phase layer right there. Nearly got it up all the way. Go. Next one. Yeah, right there. See that purple? 30, 33. I got you. Next question. Huh? Lady Brian? So you go through this process, right? And even though the application may ask you select a focus area, select that focus area, you have the opportunity to put a note and say, hey, I want to procure this. But we had identified folks for providing services on our behalf instead of doing a grant based on that activity. For example, like the title service, right? We know that so they selected all of the focus areas. That's what they did, right? And just said, hey, we want to do this and we want to do it on behalf of the WNADA or the software company. They did that. Yeah, exactly. Hey, what up? Yeah, so I'll give you a perfect real example. So the entities that we awarded money grant funding to for the 2700 block, which includes Coppin Heights CDC, I believe NHS, Rebirth, Development. I'm probably missing someone. But we will sit down with them, talk to them, and letting them know their various options. One, they can use their grant funds to just do private acquisition. That's one. Two, we can collectively agree on city and mayor-owned properties as a state agency where we have a mutual understanding, not just with city DHCD, but state DHCD on who we would want to convey those properties to, just like we're doing with the car wash. And then third are those NREM eligible properties that the city will go through the process of acquiring on the authority's behalf for one of our grantees. So that's how we do that. Yeah. Thanks. That was a good one. Anybody else? Hey, what's up? All right, good to see you. No, there's no limit. Actually, since Randy asked that question, one of the things that Randy is a big proponent on is developers teaming up with green space folks. So when you're doing real estate development, housing development, how are you incorporating green space, whether it's in the front of someone's home, in the back, and or as Eric talks about with the streetscape and making the street pedestrian friendly. So I think a whole collaborative approach is going to rank your application very high. Yes. 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 Yeah. Sure. Y'all work together. So go ahead. Yeah, so I will say that was a novel idea for us last year. The only reason we weren't able to do that, we ran out of time. But yes, that is something we'll definitely do. And to just give people a backstory, so this is we are completing our first fiscal year with the state as an agency, right? So I don't know if that's a good way to clap just because of the first fiscal year, but all right, y'all can clap for it if y'all want. So most of the staff did not start until October of last year. All right, that's number one. Tiara started in August. She's not here, but she was there to help to get this application process. And then we didn't get access to our money in the state, even though the fiscal year starts in July until December. All right. And then with the team coming on board, I wanted to make sure that the team was involved in that first application process. So it delayed it about a month and a half before we did that. Obviously we had the winter break session, takes a lot out of me and, some of the team going down to Annapolis. And then because our bill didn't pass, unlike state DHC or commerce, our funding, which is allocated to us, does not unfortunately roll over. All right. And so we were in a rush to get out the money before June, or actually we're in a rush because you got to get all this stuff in the system like 45, 60 days before. Right. So we didn't have the time to do a lot of the stuff that we wanted to do, or I wanted to do in those kind of collaborations and partnerships. But moving forward, this will be the regular time schedule for our grants. They'll come out near the end of June, primarily on June 27th. And if y'all familiar with that, that's the death of Little Willie, who used to be a Black philanthropist fundraiser for Baltimore. So I did that for Jules reason. Those are specific reasons why I did that, was to drop jewels on folks. So read that book, get the book Little Willie, read that. But there's a specific reason I did. We'll hopefully, even if I'm gone, I'll always release the applications on June 27th. And then having those grant applications done in a month, because our grant application, if anybody did it last year, was really pretty simple if you compare it to other state and city agency. So if you scared because of the state agency, that's because you just didn't open it up and start to work on it. But it's a really simple application if you see the people shaking their heads. So you just got to open it up and start it, and you'll be amazed. Because it's like the lottery, you don't play, you don't win, right? And then us having a board meeting in September and approving that, well, at least get the money to folks before Thanksgiving is my goal. And then you have, all of that time early on to spend that money. It gives the staff a break. Like really, we really haven't had a break since we started in October. And I know that's put a lot of wear and tear on us. But think about that. We just submitted out, got some money out, and we're starting a new cycle in less than 6 months. Right? That's a lot. All right. Geneva. All right, that's a good question. I got to roll that past the general counsel, but I'm sure if we will have to talk to Submittable to see if we can comically put a button where people want to share something like that, and then talk to our website people how we export that information, and then it just continues to repopulate. But basically, what you're asking for is e-marketplace for WNADA for us. I get it. That's pretty cool. All right, I like that idea. All right, cool beans. Now she and I, we known each other for a long time, same thinking process. So I like that. Cool. All right, any other questions? Hey, my sister. The 2200 block. I think that's close to the West North End of McCullen, right? Yeah, so I think if it's the 1900, so it probably is right on the tip of, I think, the West North Avenue McCullough target zone. Felisa looked like she's looking up the address. No. 20, I don't know. What's the 2200 block of West North Avenue? No, she's looking for if it's in a focus area. Yeah. No, I don't. Somebody will Google it on the map and let me know so I can get a reference point. She wants 2200 block. Hold on. Hold on. What you say, my sister? Let's do this again. Oh, so 600. So that, so yes, so that's near Reservoir Square, right? That's what she said. Hold on.
Like Nathan.
Oh
There's
no.
like this one right here. Where the church is. All the churches. Like right here, like like Payson.
No.
That's not on the plan.
No, ma'am. Sorry. No, that's not. It's like right outside of that Image Center, Mundam, and Easterwood focus area that we have. Is there something specific that you wanted to focus on? Yeah, unfortunately, our focus area is not there, but definitely I would encourage you to look at the funding for the city DACD and state DACD. Oh, no, so Lisa's going to come back and talk to you. Any other questions? Yep. No, so I don't know what time you came in, but our focus areas are still the same. Yes, yes. Oh, you're talking about those special needs? Yes, exactly. No, those have not changed. We just didn't put that on the slide. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we can put that on the website. We failed on that last year, but I think we got it nailed down, Teresa, with the website, folks. We can get it on the website now. So at least be downloadable, at least. Just put it like a cloud link and then y'all can go to it. The cloud link's still working for the plan, right, Teresa? Cool. Yeah, that's what we can do. That's an easy fix. So website updates usually happen on Wednesday. So I would say check next Wednesday for the PowerPoint. Any other questions? I usually say, man, if y'all don't have a lot of questions, must be a really great presentation. Darn, Nicole. Just went from A to B. All right, with my grade. Go ahead. Oh, that's interesting. That's probably a question for the General Assembly. So the target area is just defined by the legislation is the 600 to 3200 block, but it's basically what the city and state would define as the commercial corridor, which would be the actual West North Avenue. And then the buffer zone or buffer area is mostly the residential neighborhoods north and south of the avenue. So look at it as the General Assembly primarily wanted us to focus on commercial and economic development because our authority is created under the Maryland State Economic Development Act. But they also understood that to support commercial and economic development, you need to bring back the residential density as a portion of that. And then because it's the second most traveled bus route in the state of Maryland, focuses on the transportation corridor as a indicator. And then we added on green space, kind of like folding it into like neighborhood development, which was part of it, because there's only 4 legislative mandates: economic, housing, neighborhood, and transportation. That's what we're legally able to focus on. Cool. Yes, ma'am. What up? All right. No, it's not. Good. Back to that focus area map. So I'm gonna go back to the map, the 26. So yeah, again, if the projects are not in these particular focus areas, they have a low priority of being funded. Yes, even if they're on West North Avenue. Yeah. There are currently no focus areas for the Sandtown Winchester neighborhood. I believe we don't even start to look at that until 3033. Maybe no, go to the next one maybe. So yeah, 34, 37, we're focusing on the west side area of Penn North, and we're only going down to Baker, I believe. So it really would be the upper part of Sandtown, Winchester. But it's a common question we get. Obviously, it's a big need, it's a big challenge. Obviously, we had to make tough decisions looking at data in the community and focusing on certain areas in the hope that private industry will come in and be that catalyst. Like, we don't want the public sector. And in fact, the General Assembly it's the preference of the General Assembly that this is not an agency that lasts forever after 15 years. And, we turn into a private business improvement district. Next. Anybody else? So last thing I would say, if there are no more questions, please think creatively on what services you think we may need. It could be from marketing. Teresa's always looking to increase marketing. That's number one. Procured services for us. I talked about janitorial services. Any services that you think we may need, or the best way I would go about it is don't try to be something for us. Be who you are and tell us what you want to do. Live your dream for you. Don't live your dream for me. So that's the best advice I can give you, and I hope y'all run with that. Next, we got one more question. You done messed up my closing speech. Go ahead. Witness what? Oh, so the length for the grant period right now. So once we award the funding for, I think last year, this year, so grant, you have to spend the money, provide us dockable receipts towards the eligible expenses for 2025. That was for this year. So for next year, if you get awarded this year, you have to spend the money by September 30th, 2026. All right. Go ahead. I got him down to a C now. Go ahead. Great question, but you already know that answer. Yes, so that's a big important one that I failed to mention. Guess what? We actually award all of our grant money up front. We don't do reimbursables, which you're traditionally used to from the city and state. One is particularly for Black developers, which is one of the key components, whether they're developing residential, commercial, or retail. Most of people that look like us has to go to folks that don't look like us for hard money loans, right? And so if you have working capital up front, it makes it easier to go to certain aid entities for that funding, right? That's great question, because I got a whole lot of things on that. The next one, the next one of the things we're doing, I saw Joe back there. We haven't finished negotiating, but there will be 3 entities, Ignite Capital, Baltimore Community Lender, and Harbor Bank, where we will be investing capital into those institutions so that they can provide below market federal funding rate loans to individuals. So not just grants, but you'll have the opportunity. It ain't a whole lot of money to be paying for that loan. Now, don't clap too hard. It ain't like you go to the bank, everybody go to the bank. It's only going to be specific for our projects, right? So what we're trying to do is we'll give you a grant, but we're also saying you got to be responsible and actually put some credit up and borrow, to get to that next, level of completing your project or going after other grant funds. So it hasn't been finalized, but I'm comfortable that, we will get there based on that structure and figuring that out. It was something else, but I forgot. A Harbor Bank, yes. They won't all be funded equally. Institutions are a little bit slower and one's a little bit faster. So go figure which one probably will get the most. You don't want nothing to hold up our process. You had a question back there. I see you. Oh, Harbor Bank, Baltimore Community Lending, and Ignite Capital, which is part of Innovation Works. Cool. All right, last thing. So I'm gonna be on the radio tomorrow. YPR, right? I knew that, but I really didn't know that. So at 12 noon, I'm going to be on the radio talking about the West North Avenue Development Authority, so that I might say something new that I forgot you might want to listen to and talk to your other friends about it. And then Deanna has an announcement. You still want to do your announcement? You want me to do it? All right, cool.
So y'all talked about partnership, and to make it easier before we put on the website, we have a meet and greet tomorrow for business and networking at 5 to 8 tomorrow at the Manor. The address is 924 North Charles Street, and it has parking. It's parking in the back, it's parking on the sides, it's parking on the street. It's from 5 to 8 at the Manor, 924 North Charles Street. And we do that so you guys can partner, meet each other, ask us any more questions you might have slept on today or didn't raise your hand for. But we asked you bring people who you think this would be a great fit for, also for you. And don't be shy tomorrow. Please talk and network, and we'll have food, and the bar will be there. So loosen up a little bit. And thank you all for coming. This concludes. Oh, you can register on the website as well. We prefer RSVPs. So anything that you see us do, please RSVP and share it. This concludes our session. Thank you all for coming, and we hope to see your applications on tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks for that. You got it. It's gonna fall. Look at that. Just turn it on. How do you turn it?
We never figured that out. What's the peak?
Yo, bro.
I got it.
Go, man. You got it? You took it?
How you doing? I'm trying to figure this.
What up, man? What's going on with you, man? Yeah.
I missed it, so you have to send me the deck.
We're gonna put it up. We're gonna put it up. All right, hold on. Let me get this. 667 977. Hey, Al, what's up, man? Great presentation, man. I'm glad you came out, bro. I'll be there tomorrow, too. All right, cool. Good, sir. That was great.
Access, because we're really,
No, you're good to go.
so, since we said we can do it anywhere in any focus. We just
I
do
was
it
focused
across
on the
the
residents.
entire
Nah, so we went on to get it.
Right, so that's what we say. Well, that's how we're.
One of the ones that are residential.
Residential.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the most of the ones that do have a high probability of the Vivac Compton and then Greater Mandala. Now we don't have. After we go through the qualification.